I could see angels' faces when they hear your sweet voice sing. Go rest high on that mountain, son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven shout, love for the Father and the Son. Go rest high on that mountain, 'cause son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven shout, love for the Father and the Son. Go to heaven shout, love for the Father and the Son.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to all of you here for this service where we'll remember and celebrate the life of our friend, relative, husband, Cedric William Graham. There are family and friends watching this online around New Zealand and even a lot further afield, and of course that welcome is extended to those people as well. On behalf of Ceddy's wife Anne, son Matt and his wife Mel, daughter Jo and her daughters Taylor and Peyton, you're all most welcome, and a very sincere thank you for attending this time together. As well, Cedric's sister Lannis and brother-in-law, or Cedric's brother-in-law Stephen are here, and we've not forgotten you people as well. We're also sharing in your loss. That song just playing was a beautiful song by Vince Gill. Beautiful words, and he wrote them on the death of his brother. The music we'll hear scattered throughout the service today has been chosen by Ced, and I certainly approve of it. I think we'll all enjoy it. Today there are a few apologies from people who would love to have been here, but for various reasons, distance and health, unable to attend. And we actually have apologies from Ruth and Dave Tarrant, and Ruth is a cousin of Ced's. From Marg and Barry Smith, Marg, another cousin of Ced's. There's no shortage of cousins. There are many other family and friends who would have loved to have been here with Anne and family today, but for many reasons are unable, and those people have communicated with Anne and said they'd like to be here. I think this is an appropriate time for us to thank Ced's immediate family for the care and love they showed him in these past few weeks. In a recent phone call with Ced, he called me from his hospital bed, and I said to him, "Ced, are they looking after you in there?" And he replied, "Terry, I have just the best nurse. She's sitting by my bed when I close my eyes. She's sitting there when I open them. She gets me everything I need, and some of the time she even holds my hand." He was, of course, talking about his dear Annie. It's unusual for a funeral, but I think a little clap would be in order. Thank you. During this time of celebration today, we're going to hear some of Ced's background in life. There'll be some tributes brought by Anne, Matt, Anne's sister Paulette, and a brother of Anne's, Steve. After that, the lectern here will be open for any other family members or friends who would like to bring a few words of tribute, memories or stories of Ced to us. At the close of the service, Cedric will be carried out to the hearse to the accompaniment of a piper. We will then follow the casket out, where we'll have the opportunity to see his coffin and pay our final respects to Cedi. At that point, the service here will be concluded, and following on from that time, there'll be a cup of tea and light refreshments in here, and then after that, everyone is invited to the Vessel, which is an establishment down on Captain Cook Road, at 5 o'clock for drinks, a catch-up, retell old tales, remember Ced, etc. My name is Terry Cobham, and I'm so pleased to be able to do Ced's service. I'm one of a number of first cousins of Ced's. Quite a few of us are here today, and that says something. Those of us that lived in his hometown, and there were plenty of us, as you'll hear, called him Ced or Cedi, both terms of endearment and affection. I remember his mother and maybe his sister Lannis sometimes calling him Cedric, but to most of us, everyone else, his father included, he seemed to be Ced or Cedi. Ced grew up in a family of 4. His mother Myrtle was born and raised in Ced's hometown of Martin, and his father, John Graham, was from a small place just outside of Ballymena, and that is outside of Belfast in Northern Ireland. As mentioned earlier, Ced has a sister Lannis, so his family numbered 4. I mentioned Ced's father was from Northern Ireland. He left his family and emigrated to New Zealand at the age of 18 or 19, and he never saw his parents again. Different times, I guess. He settled in Martin. Martin's a rural town down in the lower central North Island. It was there that he met and married Ced and Lannis's mother. If you draw a line from Palmerston North to Wanganui, Martin's roughly halfway along it. It's a rather unremarkable town, but our extended family was remarkable in one sense at least, and that was its size. And I'm telling you this to paint a picture of life in a small rural town all those years ago. This extended family group included, for Cedric, his own family, plus 10 uncles and aunts, 13 first cousins. That made in total 12 aunts and uncles and 15 first cousins. There were also an impressive number of second cousins. And all these relatives lived in a small town of less than 4,000 people. Every way one turned, there was a relative. This is to point out the life for us in a town could be either fairly claustrophobic or one where there was always someone to play with. On the downside, it seemed that those in the family, especially your parents, actually knew what you'd done before you'd done it. Cedi and his family lived in an always very neat and tidy house, the sort with half the back lawn devoted to a vegetable garden, and they were only 5 houses away from the house I grew up in, myself and my 2 sisters. But between us, in that gap of 5 houses, there was another family of aunts and uncles and cousins. One of those cousins, Margaret's watching this in Australia, but the other, Philip, he's here today with us. He and Ced were close in age, and Philip and Ced trained together, played rugby in the same team, worked together in school holiday jobs, holidayed together, and shared much of their early life together in Martin. It was a very family-oriented upbringing for all of us. Life for us in our town was regulated by this large and extended family. In the life of the church, it seems so many of our family and so many people we knew were members of. We seemed to know everyone in town and everything that was going on. My memories of Ced go right back to my earliest memories. Ced's father, as I said, was a builder, and he did some alterations on our house when I was very small. My very early memories. And I remember Ced being there from time to time while these alterations were happening. I remember playing with him on the back lawn. I don't know how old I was, very, very young. Later on as schoolboys and during school holidays, we'd ride our bikes together with Philip. We'd visit Ced's father on his various building sites. I dare say get in the way. His father's reputation as a builder was second to none. And if you wanted your house well built in Martin, John Graham was your man. There's no doubt in part this is where Ced got his penchant for extreme neatness and tidiness. Ced always had a well-maintained house and garden and a well-stocked workroom, and he was very capable with his hands, adept with tools, good at handiwork if you like. And that's how for a number of years he was my hairdresser. Once at an unknown to me request by my father to Ced, and I trusted Ced because he'd always cut my hair very well in the past, but that day Ced more than trimmed my too fashionably long hair. It was right back to short and sides, right back to back, short back and sides. My father at least was well pleased with Ced that day. Ced and I often laughed outrageously as we remembered that story later on. As we grew older, left school and went to work, those family ties and friendships remained strong. Cedi was once singled out. He was always neat and tidy and dapper. He was once singled out by the local Wanganui newspaper. He began his working life in Wanganui as the best dressed man in Wanganui. There was a rather grand photo of cousin Ced in the newspaper. I had just left school at that point and started work, and so I inherited a great pile of Ced's old clothes, and I wore those shirts for years. By now I was living in Wellington in a flat on the side of Mount Victoria. Ced had changed jobs and he was selling advertising, and this job would occasionally bring him to Wellington. He would at times, rather than pay a motel bill, stay with me. Our flat was small with no spare beds, so Ced and I would top and tail in my single bed in my flat. As I said earlier, different times. Later in our adult life, we ended up living at opposite ends of the North Island and then even the world for many years. But in the last couple of decades, Ced and I spoke frequently, and until Anne and Cedi moved here to Cook's Beach, we saw each other often. We'd sit, share a cup of tea and recount past activities, lives and family. Now those who knew Ced, all of us here, always remember his loud, rich voice and his raucous and equally loud laugh. We enjoyed the times together. The endless tales of past family life often brought out that laugh. We also shared a strong interest in what I suppose you'd call modern history. We'd visited many of the same places, in France particularly, and we'd entertain each other at length talking about those visits and what we'd seen, at times Sid would reveal a very soft centre as he spoke about the sentiments those visits evoked. Sid's life was intertwined in a very strong sense with his immediate and his extended family over a very long time. Our mother, my sisters and I always looked forward to a visit from Sid. He'd pop in to see her from time to time as he's passed Martin. By now she was a very elderly lady. And he would pop in and see her when he was on one of his sales trips. She was always so pleased to recount to us her latest visit from Sedi. "Oh, he's such a nice fellow," she'd say. That was Sid. Lots of fun, lots of laugh, a strong sense of correctness, someone always concerned for his friends and family. As Sedi began to fade when he was in hospital recently, he still maintained a sense of humour, and the family recounted to me a few of the things he said. At one stage he said to Joe in the middle of the night, "This process is so long." "What process?" she asked him, and he replied, "Dying." He knew, didn't he? He replied, that's what he told them. He also told them it's time to catch the 101. That was his fictitious bus number when he had to catch them. On another occasion, he stated, "The final hour is here." And you can sort of hear Sid's voice saying that, really. He also apologised to them for leaving so early. As I said he was someone concerned for his family and friends, and he always had and always enjoyed a good turn of phrase. He would often stop in conversation and repeat the last couple of words, things like that. In a moment we're going to hear some more family tributes, but first here's another piece of music chosen by Sid. It's a piece by Mark Knopfler called "Piper to the End."
When I leave this world behind me, to another I will go. If there are no pipes in heaven, I'll be going down below. If friends in time be severed, someday we will meet again. I'll return to leave you never, be a piper to the end. This has been a day to die for. Now the day is almost done. Up above, a quiet seabird turns to face the setting sun. Now the evening dove is calling, and all the hills are burning red. And before the night comes falling,
Now we are going to hear from some of Ced's immediate family, and Anne is going to bring her tribute to her dear Ceddy. We'll then hear from Ced's son Matt, Anne's sister Paulette, and there's a recording from her brother Steve, all the way from Switzerland. Thanks, Anne.
Today, as I farewell my best friend and soulmate, I just wanted to share a few things about our life together. From the day we met, we shared so much. We were seldom seen not to be laughing together, cooking and entertaining, travelling, gardening, and just enjoying the outdoors together. So dear Ceddy, you are going to be so missed. I always felt very fortunate as Ceddy came to our relationship with a ready-made family, Matt, who lived with us, and Jo, who lived with her mum. Both Matt and Jo quickly became a big part of my life and still are today, along with Matt's partner Mel and Jo's family, Taylor, Will and Peyton. Ceddy and I have always been very proud of Matt and Jo, of their achievements over the years, and I think that's a tribute to Ceddy's strong values, his work ethic and his joy of living. So now to a few highlights that Ceddy and I shared in our time together. Firstly, our wonderful midsummer's garden wedding at Steve and Kaz's home in Mission Bay. Our amazing honeymoon skiing in Colorado and again skiing in Kitzbühel a few years later at the turn of the century. Staying in our Tuscan villa with family in '97 and embracing the true Italian Dolce Vita. Buying our Cook's Beach section in '99, subsequently camping there until the holiday home was built in 2007. And discovering many of the top fishing spots in Mercury Bay and the surrounds on board our fun vessel, Seaview. It's the only Seaview we were actually going to get. During my time working in Europe, Ceddy and I travelled there each year for winter breaks, exploring many of his favourite places. Subsequently, he often spoke fondly of his time in places like Portugal, Crete, Ireland, Croatia, and of course our canal cruise in France. I have always greatly admired Ceddy's work ethic. He worked hard to achieve his goals in life. We were often apart when Ceddy travelled the North Island peddling his wares, but that also meant that when he returned, our time together was even more special. To my family, many thanks to all my brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews, Auntie Sybil and cousins, who have all been in contact since receiving the dreadful news of Ceddy's decline the weekend before last. It is encouraging and gives strength, even when so many of you are overseas at this time. Some people asked me over the last few days about our community in Cook's Beach and where the funeral would be. For me, it was the only place for him to return and to be at peace. He loved it here. It was his life. For Ceddy, it was a no-brainer. Ceddy, you were such a trooper to the end. You fought to the bitter end and beyond. I'm missing you already, especially your totally infectious laugh, but I will live on with memories of a fantastic and fun life together.
Thank you all for being here. Dad, Ceddy, we're all here today to celebrate a man who truly filled a room the moment he walked into it. A man with razor-sharp wit, contagious laugh, and a way of making life feel lighter even on the hardest days. We're here to celebrate Ceddy. Ceddy was the life of the party, not because he demanded attention, but because people were naturally drawn to him. He had the rare gift of making everyone feel included, welcome and important. Whether it was a perfectly timed joke, a mischievous grin, or one of his unforgettable stories, Ceddy gave us all something priceless, joy. But beyond the humour and the charisma was something even greater, his unwavering positivity. He faced the world with optimism and unconditional love. Ceddy reminded us that attitude matters, that laughter heals, and that life should be fun. Friends became family, conversations became memories, ordinary moments became stories that will now be told for years to come. Through his humour, his compassion, his loyalty, the countless lives he touched, simply by being himself, Ceddy will be missed. Even through the deep sadness in saying goodbye, there is also immense gratitude. Gratitude that we knew him, gratitude that we laughed with him, gratitude that we loved him and we were loved in return. Thank you, Ceddy. We will all miss you very, very much. Your loving son, Matt and Mel.
Kia ora koutou, I'm Paulette, Anne's sister. Anne has asked me to gather together some anecdotes and stories from our side of the family. So I'm going to start with something that our niece Tula from Melbourne sent. Tula says, "Some of my fondest memories are of sitting on the back porch at Cook's, eating freshly picked tomatoes on toast in the sunshine. These moments will stay with me forever. We will miss your sunshine, Uncle Ceddy." And from Reuben, who's here today, Ceddy had a very empathetic and caring side. Small things like cleaning everyone's spectacles at Mari's house after Mari passed away. And it was really special that he was able to build a wonderful handcrafted toy truck for Remy, providing more joy and lasting memories for the next generation down. He had the infectious laughter that would have the whole room joining in. Years later, Rue says, "My wife Nadine didn't recognise him at the Keating family reunion and asked him, 'And how do you fit in here?' which was met with raucous laughter and a response of, 'I don't.' And Will, joining live from Cable Beach in Broome, Western Australia, our brother-in-law, he says, "I remember Ceddy welcoming me to the family. He thought with me there as the new guy, it would take the pressure off him. I remember all of the good times we had at Cook's Beach, the laughter, the food, the fun, no matter what the occasion." And from Alicia on the Sunshine Coast, one particular memory I have is when Granny died. I was only 15 and was very upset. I remember at the family gatherings that Cedi was not only very supportive of the extended family, but also brought a lot of joy to an otherwise sad time. And Saf, who is here today, our niece. Cedi will always be etched in my mind and heart as a man of many, many laughs. He was a great storyteller with quick wit and a cheeky grin. He could be serious at times too. He was loyal, generous, and genuine. I distinctly remember him saying the last day I saw him, "You're looking so well, Saf, isn't she, Annie?" He sported the colour blue well and always had nice spectacles and sunglasses. I remember his boat shoes, his polos, and merino jerseys well. And Dennis, our brother, joining from Brisbane. On his regular travels around the North Island for work, Cedi built up a knowledge of the best places to buy many things. Monica would often give him a task to find and purchase things on her behalf, such as obscure sewing or knitting requirements, which he always accomplished with accuracy and efficiency. Anne and Cedi were expert campers, including many stints at Cook's Beach before their house was built. Cedi maintained the tidiest of tents and campsites, and his lighting system inside the tent, while perhaps not meeting every regulatory requirement, was very effective. And for myself, well, we had a lot of banter about Cedi having 2 wives. Apparently, there's more than a passing resemblance between Anne and me. Much as I loved the guy, Anne didn't have much to worry about with regard to wife number 2. With his strong Northern Irish and Protestant roots, I think Cedi was genuinely surprised when he met Anne's family that despite us coming from a supposedly good Catholic family, we didn't actually all have 2 heads, which was just as well, really, as he ended up attending more Catholic church services than he would ever have imagined. In fact, he really took on our family and became an important part of it. When he used to travel down to Wellington for work, he would always stop in and visit Dad, having a bite to eat or a cup of tea, and to help him out with something or another. Dad really enjoyed these visits. On one occasion, a very dodgy-looking guy, not Cedi, knocked at the front door and asked if he could use Dad's toilet. Dad was all of 90 at this point, but he thought quickly and said no because the toilet was currently occupied. A few seconds later, Cedi emerged just at the right moment from the toilet and the guy scarpered. So I'm going to give the last word to our sister Barb, who is joining live from Cable Beach. She says, "Cedi, you welcomed us into your home on so many occasions and made us feel very happy and relaxed. You shared your humour and sharp wit with us, and your hearty laugh brought tears to our eyes. You cared for our sister Anna with tenderness and unfailing love. For this, I am truly grateful. Rest in peace now, dear Cedi. We will continue to honour you." And now we have a recording from our brother Steve on behalf of him and his wife Sarah. They're in Zurich right now, otherwise they would have been here in person.
Hi everyone, my name's Steve, I'm Anne's brother. In the 30 plus years I've known Cedi, one of the most constant sources of banter between us was the rugby. Inexplicably, hailing from Martin, heartland of the Hurricanes, Cedi was a Blues supporter. True to my Upper Hutt roots, I backed the Hurricanes. Fortunately, these 30 years have been a period of near total Hurricanes domination, the team storming to one title to the Blues 4. The only way I would be met with silence on Ceddy's part for that gag is when he's in the position he's in now. There was some surprise when Ceddy lasted so long in hospital recently. For me, it was clear that he was waiting to be around for one more hurricane's loss. After this happened on Friday night, he went to his rest happy. This had the added bonus that he didn't have to experience yet another abject blues capitulation on Saturday night. With the Hurricanes at the top of the table, Ceddy decided this was not a world he wanted to live in. Like the tiger he shared so many characteristics with, Ceddy took himself to the wilderness of the Chiefs' catchment area for his departure. Over the years, we've also refought the battles of the Reformation. Ceddy kicked with the wrong foot in this area. Whenever something was a bit mysterious to him, he would comment to me that it must be a Catholic thing. And when I found something hard to understand, the response to him would be, it must be a Protestant thing. Sarah, my wife Sarah, remembered the occasion we decided it was time for Ceddy to be the butt of a practical joke. We can't remember why. Perhaps it was that his spirits needed to be lifted after failing to execute perfectly his triple backward somersault off the top of the ladder. Or perhaps it was in reply to one of his own practical jokes. Anyway, we searched for a weak spot. As you know, Ceddy was proud of the high quality vehicles he drove. This was in Winhall Rise days, when even those vehicles had to take second place to the museum exhibits in the garage, and the cars were parked on the driveway. So we rang him in a disguised voice to inform him that his car had been stolen and had been sighted some distance from his home, and we would be doing the best we could to get it back to him, if possible. We had him on the line for long enough that he walked over to the window to check whether the car was still there. I can still hear his laugh when the game was up. One of the stories from the last days was that he had booked a return ticket to heaven. Being unfamiliar with true religious doctrine, he may not be aware of the concept of purgatory. Well, said he, this stage takes place in Martin, so you'll be in familiar surroundings. There will actually be no need for the trip to the sky at all, because heaven will reign on earth when the Hurricanes win the title in 3 weeks' time. We will miss you, my friend, but your laugh will always be ringing in our ears.
Bright shining sun would light up the way before. You were the one, made me feel I could fly, and I love you. Whatever is waiting for me,
Another very beautiful song, another one chosen by Ced. I think the music's kind of shown the softer side of his nature today, hasn't it? Thank you, Anne, Matt, Paulette and Steve for those tributes, and we all understand how hard it was for you, but thank you very much. At this point, I'd like to invite any of you out here who might have a little tribute of your own to bring. You're most welcome now to come and take the microphone for a moment or two, should you want to. Perhaps if each person could just introduce themselves too. Thank you.
Yeah, hi there, I'm Mark Bell. Oops, take your notes away. I just heard about it, so I did a lot of prep on a bit of paper here. And I often called Ceddy the young fella. I think Ceddy come from an Irish background. My grandfather was half Irish, half Welsh. And in meeting Ceddy, I think we just clicked. And often we used to get into a lot of trouble. And I always found I'd wake up in the morning, we did a lot of socialising in Charles Green, and there's some lovely folk here from Charles Green. We lived in Charles Green at the time. You know, Kevin and Kay, Dave and Nolene were over the back. We've got the other ones, Mike and Anita, Jack and Diane, who I'm not sure if they're able to make it, but there was others, so we had a lot of socialising. We used to put on a lot of events at our house, theme parties and all that. But, and when we were having these functions, we'd talk like most. You'd get around the table and we'd try and solve the problems of the world, the problems in New Zealand, and the reasons the parties went on so long is that we're waiting for a call from the government of the day for our advice, and they never rang. So, you know, that was a bit concerning. But I'd wake up in the morning after one of these social events, and my wife Lynn would say, "Mark, do you realise?" And I thought, holy crap. What? And I could do the only thing a good friend could do. I said, "What has Ceddy put us into?" And she said, no, I think it was either one of you was leading each other. But I can remember one particular story. We'd had a function at our house, and I think Annie had gone home, and Ceddy and I, our favourite phrase is "one for the road," which was always dangerous. And so we had one for the road. Ceddy went one way, and then I got this call from Annie, "Ceddy hasn't arrived home." I thought, geez. So I did the only thing you could do. I headed off, but I went around another way. So I got to Ceddy's house, and there was a call from home. "Mark hasn't arrived home. Do you know where he is?" And anyway, I then decided I'd go down the opposite way to get home, and Ceddy went around the wrong way. So this happened twice, and so we finally connected, and we did what you should do, you know, good mates. We decided to have one for the road, and we went home our respective ways. One of the things, when Ceddy was quite unwell, Ross came up with we called ourselves R&M contractors, Ross and Mark contractors. And so we'd go around and, you know, do the lawns or do whatever they needed to make the house look nice, because at that stage Ceddy was struggling. Even though he wanted to do it, he just couldn't do it. And Annie was full-time with Ceddy. And the comment was made about how he was very particular. Well, one day there, he came out sitting on his chair, and you might remember this, on the decking, and there was a particular order you had to do his lawns in. At home, I would do my edges and then go over with the mower. No, you had to mow and then use the edge cutter. He wanted it that way, because he was worried about the grass staining the concrete. So we did it that way. Anyway, Annie and Ceddy asked us to trim in the front of their house. They've got a decking of, they've got this, I call it grassy sort of stuff, and it had blown up a bit. And so Ross came around with his hedge cutter thing, and we said to Ceddy, what sort of height did you want it? And he said, oh, just below the bottom rail of the decking. So Ross cuts it along, and we looked up at Ceddy. He said, no, I want it about another 20 mil down. So we then had to go along and cut it 20 mil down. So he was very particular, and a very, just moving on, a very good friend, and it's been a privilege to know. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. My name's Michael Galt. I'll take you back on a bit of a past journey. My dad and Ceddy were good friends for many years. How we all met was probably when Matt and I played cricket at Cornwall Cricket Club. And to cut a long story short, I guess that's when the drinking started. I think from that early age at about, geez, Matty, I know, yeah, 12, 13, 14, the drunken nights on Saturday at Cornwall Cricket Club Pavilion afterwards for the adults, you know, for the dads, and that's where the friendship started for my dad, Gary, and Ceddy. I lost my dad 2.5 years ago, so just bear with me. So that's where their friendship sort of evolved, and from those cricket days we started skiing and snowboarding down in Awakuni. So it would be many weekends that we'd venture down there, and looking back on it, you know, as kids you didn't realise how much it cost, but our dads probably forked out a fair bit of money every weekend to go down there and do this. And between the two of them and another bloke, they put their heads together and they thought it'd be a good idea to buy a house. So anyway, bless them, they bought this house in Awakuni, 19 Railway Road, and that was at the base of the mountain road going up to Turawa. It was the spot. You couldn't get anywhere closer to the Powder Keg, Turawa Lodge, access up to the mountain. It was the spot, and I think from memory, I think they paid about $20,000 or $25,000 for this house. So they all chipped in, the three of them, and bought this place. I could only imagine what it is worth now. Probably I would be thinking close to the $1 million mark. But anyway, when we bought this house down there, it was every weekend we were down there. And between the three of them, Dad, Ceddy and Forgy, Friday night, they would be pissed. And I think what the man was saying before, trying to solve all the problems in the world, but they never got the phone call then either. But they met up with the owner of Turawa Lodge. They became very good friends with him, and also Paul Scarf, who owned the Powder Keg down in Awakuni as well. So I remember many nights, once everything would be finished at Powder Keg, it would be Dad, Ceddy, Forgy, and Paul Scarf, the owner, sitting at the bar, carrying on the drinking, and they had a camera up on the corner up there. And Paul's wife, she'd go home and then notice that he wouldn't be home for a couple of hours, but it had an intercom system too. So she'd turn it on, and Dad would tell me, she'd be like, Paul, time to come home. So Dad, Forgy and Ceddy, they'd have to make their way across the railway tracks, get home. God knows what time it would have been. Anyway, the stories of them stumbling across back home. Then in the morning, it would almost, I don't know, I felt like it was a competition to see who would wake up, go into the kitchen, get the biggest pot and a wooden spoon, and go outside each other's bedroom, banging this thing, claiming that the mountain was closed. So anyway, the three of them, they'd get up in their undies, walking around, blaming each other for the night before, it's your fault, rah, rah. But anyway, we'd be up skiing, snowboarding that day, enjoying the day, then come back and the same thing would happen again that night. It was memories that will last forever. It really will, man. Thank you, Ceddy, for everything. Such a good man. Just all about the good times, and just, it was an era in our lives that we'll never forget. So yeah, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Linda McLaughlin, and I became Ceddy's neighbour with my husband and two boys in 1980, and we were neighbours for 16 odd years. Well, Matt grew up there with Dad, and Joe went off and stayed with Mum. We had some wonderful times. He became a lifelong friend. John Boy, as he called my husband John, would be welcoming him up there now, and they'll be looking down and having a good few laughs. His laughter was incredible. I could hear him laughing from inside our house when he was inside his house. And so we just sit there and laugh because we could hear Ceddy laughing. And he had very light footfall, so much so we could hear him walking through his house from inside our house. He had the museum in the garage. One day my eldest son sprayed his brand new car with CRC all down the side of it just because he could. Todd wished they both could be here today, Jamie and Todd actually said, Mum, I remember seeing a photo of Ceddy and John in the boat and Dad in the boat. I thought they were out fishing, he said. They were sitting in our driveway pissed. They'd been cleaning the boat. And Annie's arrival was supposed to be a surprise. We weren't supposed to know she was coming to see him that day. He tilted the Venetian blinds up so we couldn't see through. Annie came down the drive and heard Cedric's big concrete pad at the bottom, went over, reversed back, and we heard this mighty bang. John gets out, what's happened? And she'd backed over the edge of the concrete pad, so her back wheel was hanging over the edge. This is Annie's quiet entrance to Ceddy's life. John rushes out under the car. Okay, Ceddy. Anyway, off they went. One other story I always remember as well. He had 3 or 4 cars down the drive for some reason, and it was away on holiday. So my husband, as his usual silly self, decides, I'm going to make a sign. So when Ceddy came back from his holiday, there was these flags draped across his driveway with Ceddy's LMVD. But we had some wonderful times and became lifelong friends. We've had holidays together. Matt, we met in bloody LA and Disneyland. We went to Hawaii, Fiji. We had some wonderful times, and I'll miss him so much. A special person. Thank you.
Is there anybody else would like to say something? Okay, look, thank you very much, everybody there, for taking part. Now, I just remembered another story. It's worth repeating because it's quite funny. We lived in a small town and rules and regulations were perhaps overlooked. Cedric mowed the lawns for this elderly man, a very old sort of English-style gentleman, and he had one of those very old cars. I've never really seen one since, I don't think. It was a pre-selector, so you put they're complicated to drive. I don't think I've ever driven one. You selected the gear, then you pumped a clutch-like pedal, and the thing automatically changed gear. Well, we were only boys, like Ced was 14. You got your licence at 15 in those days. We found out Cedric had been driving this old man to Wanganui and back for an ice cream. in his car. Yes, yeah, he was a hard case. So we reached the point really where this service is starting to draw to a close. We're going to look at a slideshow here and listen to one more song chosen by Cedric.
Quando sono solo e sogno all'orizzonte mancano le parole. Sì, lo so che non c'è luce in una stanza quando manca il sole. Se non ci sei tu con me, su le finestre. Mostra a tutti il mio cuore che hai acceso, chiudi dentro me la luce che hai incontrato per strada. Time to say goodbye, paesi che non ho mai veduto e vissuto con te, adesso sì li vivrò con te, partirò su navi per mari che io lo so, no, non esistono più. It's time to say goodbye. Quando sei lontana sogno all'orizzonte e mancano le parole. E io sì lo so che sei con me, tu mia luna, tu sei qui con me. Mio sole, tu sei qui con me. Quando sei lontana sogno all'orizzonte e mancano le parole. E io sì lo so che sei con me. Tu mia luna, tu sei qui con me. Mio sole, tu sei qui con me.
heard they had some adventures, didn't they? So this really does bring us to the conclusion. I'm sure we've all heard things that have brought the occasional tear to our eyes, but we've also heard things that have made us smile and laugh, and I'm sure Ceddy would have it no other way. The coming days and weeks will be hard for Anne and the family. I have a couple of verses from the book of Psalms in the Bible. We've spoken about Protestants and Catholics, but we all share the same Bible. Psalm 34 verse 18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those whose spirits are crushed." And another verse, Psalm 147 verse 3 says, "He heals the brokenhearted and he binds up their wounds." On your order of service, you will have noticed that there's a poem that Anne has chosen, and I'm just going to read it to you now. "When I die, I want your hands on my eyes. I want the light and the wheat of your beloved hands to pass their freshness over me one more time, to feel the smoothness that changed my destiny. I want you to live while I wait for you, asleep. I want for your ears to go on hearing the wind, for you to smell the sea that we love together, and for you to go on walking the sand where we walked. I want for what I love to go on living. And as for you, I loved you and sang you above everything. For that, go on flowering, flowery one, so that you reach all that my love orders for you, so that my shadow passes through your hair, so that they know by this reason for my song. It only remains for me to thank you on behalf of Mel, Matt, Anne, Joe, Peyton, Taylor, I knew that, and Will, whose name I forgot at the beginning. I'm sorry, Will. Life will be a wee bit difficult for them in the coming weeks, and we'll not forget that. Shortly, I'll ask us to stand before Cedric's piper, Mr. Jim Brommel, someone who Cedric actually requested to play pipes Ceddy from this hall. Ced has also chosen this final piece of music, and it'll be familiar to all. Cedric's coffin will be placed in the hearse, and we can follow him out to pay our final respects. Just before that happens, I would like to quote Cedric's final words. And in typical Ceddy fashion, they must be understood with a smile on our faces. He said to the family as a final statement, "Well, I think we need to get the conversation started." We'll all get the chance to continue those conversations. Firstly, there's a cup of tea and light refreshments here immediately after. And later at 5 p.m, everyone is invited to drinks and nibbles at the Vessel, which is an establishment at 37 Captain Cook Road, right here at Cook's Beach. Thank you very much, and if we could all stand.